Welcome to the Mom Era podcast. My name is Megan.
And I'm Alyssa.
And we are best friends who decided to start this podcast, and we've been friends for about 10 years.
Yeah, we met working at a movie theater. Our lives have kind of converged over time into best friends because we followed the same career paths. We've influenced each other. We've completed our master's degree together. And we've supported each other personally and professionally throughout the past 10 years.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten closer. I think between our work and then recently just being parents and going through pregnancy together has really brought us closer. We've been lucky enough to experience our first pregnancies together, and now we're experiencing motherhood together for the first time. We're truly living in our mom era. It's kind of taken over everything we think about, everything we do. When we meet, that's what we're talking about. We're bouncing ideas off of each other. So we wanted to share our experience as best friends and mothers. So here we are. Mom Era, the podcast was born.
Yeah. We are hoping with this podcast to bring a unique perspective. I think Megan and I are very similar, but also very different at the same time. So for example, we are very type A, very planning oriented. And at the same time, we have different views on life and the way we structure our families, which influences how we parent as well.
Yeah, we are similar but different. So I think it's perfect for a podcast like this because I think what we're being best friends and being that way, I think what's nice is we kind of bounce those ideas off of each other and are taking each other's experiences even though we're different.
Yeah, we're learning from each other in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So why don't we just introduce ourselves a little bit? My name is Megan. I have a daughter. Her name is Eleanor, and she's 1 year old. I am married to my husband, Rob. We've been together for around 8 years now, and I work currently in payroll, but I have HR payroll background.
And I am Alyssa. I have one son, and he is a month younger than Megan's child. So he's about to be 1 at the end of this month. I'm married to my husband, Austin, who I've been with for 11 years now. And I work primarily in human resources. We're on like the HR side, dealing with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the people side. I'm like the analytics side of HR.
Yeah.
always complimenting each other
in many areas.
Yeah. Well, tell me, like, what did you do this weekend?
What did I do? Oh, we went to breakfast with Austin's aunt. So that was nice. Breakfast is my favorite. I feel like we always go out to breakfast. Mm-hmm. And we went to my other aunt's for the Super Bowl party, which was lots of fun. We had lots of babies there. So watching the babies interact with, basically watching Axel interact with my nephews is always fun. And Axel had his first, boo-boo, he would call it, or pain, whatever. He was trying to climb up on the coffee table to stand up, pull himself up. And he, on the leg of the coffee table, he hit, his top 2 gums on it. And, as he was falling down it, scratching, he was not happy. And it was, those painful tears where you're just and you just want to, make it all better and forget everything else in the world. So that was a lot, but he liked sucking on the ice. It helped a lot, and he calmed down. I was running. I'm where is the giraffe? Give me the giraffe.
You're where's his lovey? He doesn't have. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a giraffe lovey that we call Giraffe, and it is our favorite.
He does. He loves his giraffe.
Mm-hmm.
But Axel doesn't have the teeth, right? 2 front teeth yet?
No teeth.
Because I feel like that could have been bad, hitting it with the teeth.
That's what I was like, oh, like, I don't, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean the gums is one thing, but maybe it'll just like push those teeth to come in even faster.
Something. I'm hoping so. I mean, he's almost one. I feel like maybe it'll start. I keep looking at those bottom two teeth because I think they say
Hmm.
that those usually start first. And I don't know. It looks white, but it's not popping through the gums.
Yeah. Eleanor's is weird. Her bottom two teeth, they were like very far back when they started coming in. So I didn't even see them because you just expected them to be at the gum line and they
Mm-hmm.
weren't. So then when we
Mm,
finally saw them poking through, I'm like, what the heck? And my mom, she works with kids, so she was like, that's normal for some children, but they end up like moving into their spot after a while. So I
no,
thought that
that's
was
kind of
so
weird.
weird. Hmm.
Yeah, after I think you told me that when it had happened, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what I should be
Hmm.
looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this weekend we took Eleanor to the park for the first time. So where we live was in the like what 40s,
Yeah,
50s
yeah, it
ish.
was
I
it
think it
was
was like
sunny.
45 when we went on Saturday. Yeah. And she loved it. It was just way colder, like 45. Usually you're like, oh, this is good. Let's get outside. But the wind was like super chilly. So we didn't
Mm-hmm.
stay for a long time, but we took her down the slide a few times and we brought her bike, her little, like, I don't know,
A
trike.
balance
It has
bike
four
thing.
wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, the balance bike. And she loves it. She's like, bike, 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 go, go. But she
Oh.
had so much fun. Yeah, we've just been like when it's nice out, we've been trying to get outside as much as possible because being in the Midwest in the winter, you just feel so cooped up. Um,
Yeah, it's like that time of year where you're just like, oh, when is summer? And we still have like
mhm.
2.5, 3 months of it.
I know, and it sucks because I feel like this is like fake spring. It's
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
like, oh, spring might be here, and you're like, oh, we're only in February.
yeah. It's still gonna be cold. Like,
Ugh,
oh, yeah, no, I always see you posting about like being outside. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. We should take Axel out. And then I'm like, it's too cold.
I know.
I don't want to go out there.
We went out Sunday too. Like I just put her in our wagon and I kind of walked her around the neighborhood and we did a little bit of bike action on our driveway and then hung out in the grass. She, as like an infant before one, when it like in the summer, she would not let us put her down in the grass.
Mm,
She would do that thing where you would like try to set her down and her legs would lift up. So she wouldn't touch it. So the fact that she's like letting us sit her down in the grass and like feel all these different textures, I'm just trying to like engage that a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's cute. She's cute. She loves
No.
being outside.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys
Hmm.
had fun.
Yeah, but other than that, it was a pretty chill weekend, which I can't be upset about.
No, I love chill weekends. I mean, I did a little bit of organizing at home, but nothing
Ooh.
crazy.
I know it's hard. Tell me if you feel this way, but as like a new mom and just a mother in general, I struggle sometimes to find a balance between like using that time for something joyful with the family, something joyful with my daughter, like just something different than the normal day to day. We're going to play with your toys or we're going to try to learn something, like something new, versus like, I'm so tired from the week and I need a rest. And usually I try to give myself like one day of each, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, I feel like I struggle with that during the week more because like
Hmm.
I get home because I go into the office sometimes. So when I do come home, I'm just like, that's when I want to rest and like I feel bad not engaging or like eating, taking a bath, going to bed. Like because
Yeah.
we're not doing anything. Austin's doing everything with her. Um, but so that's more when I struggle with it. Um, on the weekends, I feel like I don't, he did sleep a lot this weekend, so it's like
Mm,
we had enough time to like catch up on things, but it does suck because like I want to organize and clean the house, but I want to like be present with him, but I want to like relax and
right.
recover from like the
Yeah.
week. And so it's like
Hmm.
what do you do first and how do you prioritize it? And so sometimes my floor doesn't get vacuumed up
I
this week
know.
until next week, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's all about balance. And
Yeah.
I've been trying to learn because I've been the type of person who I can't have clutter in my house and I have to like do thorough cleaning every weekend. And I've just been trying to give myself grace that it is okay that my house does not look the same post baby than it did pre baby. And it's
Hmm.
been a learning, but I don't feel as much anxiety over the fact that there are things everywhere.
Yes, there's things everywhere. Oh, that is what I did do because I was feeling some type of way about the things being everywhere.
Hmm.
And it was all of his toys. So we just had his birthday party, we had Christmas, the toys are everywhere. And I guess when I'm home, I just do it a different way than Austin does it, and that's
Hmm.
okay. That's
Yep.
okay. Um, but the toys were like, we have this like egg carton, and the eggs were everywhere, and the dinosaur things were everywhere. And so I literally spent probably a good hour just structuring all the toys, and I made like 7 different baskets. So we have a basket for this week, and then we'll switch it
Hmm.
to another basket next week. And I just put like a new toy or like a book and specific things for Austin to like um focus on with him because
Hmm.
otherwise it'll just be whatever toys down there is the toy he's going to play with. So,
Yeah. I like that you do a toy rotation. We don't do that, but I've
well,
thought
it
about
just
it.
started. I just
Yeah.
started.
You'll have to let me know how it works out long term.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tried to make it easy on myself because, you can get very organized and specific, but I just like put all the relevant toys and I just picked a different basket to put everything in and I put
Hmm.
a book or a theme to each one. And so hopefully it's not hard to stick with, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we will follow up. I want to know how the
Yeah.
toy rotation works because it just is like it's not a huge added labor, but it is added labor. So if there's a payoff, then definitely worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that people have success with it. Now, I
Hmm.
haven't ever implemented it, but we'll see.
Well, we would like to welcome you to our first episode of the Mom Era podcast. This episode is called Just Wait. This is a topic that created and still creates a lot of unnecessary anxiety. I know it did for me. We've talked about it through our journey, and I know it did for you as well. It's the just wait comments that tend to be negative.
Hmm.
Um, the first thing before we dig in is I do want to say I know the people who make these comments, they're not malicious. They're not doing something intentionally to cause anxiety or other negative feelings. I imagine it's just a way for parents to connect and seek solidarity with one another, or even just like a way to inform. But it's probably coming off in a tone or a way they didn't intend.
Yeah, I think they've been very prevalent throughout, like when we were pregnant, during our birthing stage, and even now, like still as our babies are growing. And I think the focus of this podcast is we want to change the narrative, want to dig into some of these common comments that come up and kind of discuss what helped us and some of the negative experiences and how we can turn them into a positive experience because changing that perspective really helped us just get through that experience, and the perspective is everything about it. So
Hmm.
I think going right into the podcast, I think one of was during birth, and I just thinking about this specifically is you're going to poop on the table, and that is not something that I was prepared for or something that I wanted to hear, I guess, during um the pregnancy stage. Like I feel like thank you for letting me know. Like, it's kind of like a good heads up. But yeah, I felt like that was just a very negative um it was like set up as like a negative thing, like, hey, this is going to happen to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want Austin to think about me in a different way. Like, what? How do I not do that? And so I think that was a big one that came up for me. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, Megan.
Yeah, that one, I remember hearing that one when I was, gosh, I think I was in my early 20s. It was one of my first jobs. And my boss at the time was pregnant. And she was like just kind of word vomiting all of the negative just waits that were being told to her. And so, like, us as her staff, none of us had been pregnant. Um, Actually, one might have, but she was just like, oh my gosh, I am being told that I might poop on the table. So then I'm like, you're gonna what? Like you're pushing, like it just blew my mind at the time. And I was young and I was like, why do people intentionally go through this? Definitely in a different mindset that I am now. Going into birthing, I think, less anxious about it the older I am, kind of going into birth. I don't even know if Rob knew that that was a possibility because I never like said it out loud. Was Rob or was Austin ever there when somebody
Oh,
said
oh
that to you?
yeah. I
Oh
told
yeah.
Austin. I was like, this is what people say. You better be prepared. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but be prepared.
Yeah. I mean, literally, I did myself a disservice kind of going into birth, I think, going into labor at least. And I was just like, my body is primed for this. Like, I'm fine. Whatever's going to happen is fine. But I just remember hearing about you're going to poop on the table a long time ago and me being like, kids, not for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I I don't even think I knew about it till I was pregnant. And when I did find out about it, I was like, okay, if it happens, it'll just happen like once. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But like I better tell Austin. And I feel like Austin and I have that we're very comfortable in our relationship that
Hmm.
way where it is what it is, it happened. But it happens a little
It
bit more than once. Like I wasn't prepared for that. So yeah, and at first I thought, like I was like, man, I'm bleeding a lot because they kept like cleaning the area like every,
hmm
couple of minutes, and I'm like, am I bleeding this much? And yeah, it wasn't blood. So, um,
That
I
is so
think
funny. I mean, I obviously ended up in C-section, so I never got that far. So you're not even like, I think the moral of the story is you don't even know it's happening.
no, I didn't. I think mostly because I had my epidural at that time, but
Hmm.
like you're just kind of that sensation of pushing the baby out, and I didn't know that was what was going on. I mean, I could probably put two and two together and figure it out, but I thought it was blood at first. Like I thought it was just kind of
Yeah.
gross and bloody because that's
Hmm.
what I thought was going on. But yeah,
Yeah. But you're probably not even like thinking about it, right? You're
no,
like
and
so focused on like pushing and doing everything. Everybody's kind of in your face. Like truly, it's not gonna phase you.
yeah, no. At that point, I was screaming, "I'm never doing this again! Get this baby out of me!" So I didn't really care if I was pooping on the table or not.
Like, get this out of me.
Um, and then, after birth, it's like, oh, you have to birth your placenta. That's gonna hurt. They're gonna push on your stomach, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what can hurt more than the baby coming out? So that was something I was like expecting, like push the baby out, be in pain, push the placenta out, be in pain, and I would say I didn't have any pain with my placenta. It was just kind of like a routine thing. Like the doctor came in, birthed the placenta, and that was it. Like, they weren't like pushing on my stomach, trying to roll me over, anything like that.
Mhm.
But I do know, like, if someone did have like retained placenta or an issue with the placenta, that would be more of an emergency where they might be like really trying to get the placenta out if it was stuck. So that was not my experience, but it did not hurt for me.
Yeah, I remember there being a lot of comments around the placenta, and I didn't even know the placenta was something I had to worry about or birth or like remove from my body in any way, until these comments were made. And they were made in the way that they were like, this is going to hurt. And in my head, I'm like, whoa, I'm giving birth. That's supposed to hurt. And then, you have to birth the placenta afterwards. You don't even get to focus on your baby. So I was really anxious around the fact that, like, it was more or less going to take time away from me and my baby. Now, of course, having a C-section, I didn't have to worry about any of that because they were just like, boop, and took that thing right out of me. But it did create unnecessary anxiety, I would say, during pregnancy and just like thinking about giving birth. I was really, really scared to go into labor.
Yeah,
Um,
me
I
too.
honestly think it was because we got, or at least me, I got a lot of these comments, and there's like a lot of negatives associated with birthing, both on the side of like, it's going to hurt, it's painful, but then there's all this talk around you should do it naturally. And then there's this talk around like, don't get a C-section. And it just was all, it was a lot. And it was all those comments versus like actually informing me on what the process would look like, which is fine. It's nobody's job to like inform me, but it did create that anxiety around just the birthing process in general for me.
Yeah, I think because you and I are very much planners, we like to know what's going to happen, control the situation,
Mm-hmm.
like what we can control. And I think not knowing what was going to happen was the hardest part. And then having these comments, that it just contributed to the anxiety that I had going into birth. Like, I would feel so much more comfortable if I would have known this is what happens. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
like A, B, C, like generally what happens. And it can ebb and flow based on whatever is best for your baby. And that's okay because every baby's not the same. Every mom is not the same that's pushing the baby out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the scariest pieces for me. Like, I had heard you ended up in a C-section. My other friend had ended up in C-section, and I'm like, I don't even know what to expect, but here we go, walking
Mm-hmm.
in to go give birth. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot going into it. Now
Yeah.
I feel like a pro, but
Same. I think I'll go into the next with a much different mindset for sure. And I think it's just gonna help me in my journey because we'll talk about our birth stories in a different episode. But I mentally had a really hard time with my birthing journey, and it took me a long time to kind of process that and even come back to, okay, I could have another kid, because it was
mhm.
it was pretty traumatic. And it's interesting. We probably can talk about this in a whole nother episode too, just like postpartum and your feelings, and just the support you're given isn't very much. And so I kind of spiraled afterwards. But yeah, I definitely think next time I give birth, things will be much better.
Yeah, whole completely different mindset. Like, so much more relaxed too. And
Hmm.
I'm my sister is actually having a baby here soon, and she is, I feel like she's going through, it's exactly a year ago I was doing this, like going through every step, trying to figure out what we should and shouldn't bring into like a birth plan, what our plans are, what our thoughts are. And like, I just remember doing all of that for myself, and it just completely like changed when I got into the hospital. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just giving me some flashbacks talking
I
here.
know. It's hard because when you're pregnant and you haven't been through it, you don't know what you don't know. And you're trying to prepare as much as possible, but you truly can only prepare based on what you know. Or
Mhm.
you can try to seek out as much information, but you're truly only going to gain based on like the what you should Google, you know what I mean, or what's out there. And you truly don't know until you experience it or
Have,
talk to others, listen to
yeah,
podcasts,
someone
talk to
that's,
others,
yeah.
yeah, who have had experiences. I think listening to birth stories, that's something I wish I would have done. And I don't even know if there's like access to that anywhere, but like listening to different birth stories would have been beneficial for me because, I went into it not knowing what any outcome could be. I
Hmm.
just thought I was going to give birth. My body was primed for it. I was good to go. And I could trust the medical professionals to get me there. And, it didn't necessarily work out that way. And so I just wish that was something I would have done, listen to birth stories.
Yeah, I think I've listened to more birth stories and like birthing podcasts after I gave birth than I did before I gave birth, and that probably would have been helpful just to
Yeah.
understand different people's experiences because my experience isn't going to be the same. But like I remember because you gave birth a month before me, I wanted to understand like what happened to you so I knew what to expect,
Hmm.
right? Um, those are important to pay attention to so you feel like you're informed when you walk into giving
Yeah.
birth.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. In terms of birth, another comment I received a ton and it created a ton of anxiety. I didn't want this to happen to me is negative comments about C-sections. All my friends pretty much to that point had had C-sections and they were emergency. So they were all very traumatic. So I think that on top of people being like, don't get a C-section, you have to birth normally. That was something I did not want. When they asked me in the hospital when I come in, what was your birth plan? I said, my birth plan is to not have a C-section. Like that was the only thing I was so anxious about it. And that was one thing Rob and I had talked about. That's something I had talked about with my doctor basically from the beginning. I think if I didn't have all that pent up anxiety, like I don't want this to happen, I think when they told me, hey, this needs to happen, I probably wouldn't have shut down the way I did. And it really kind of took me away from the whole experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a different experience where I was like, Austin was like, can we leave the hospital? Like, why do they want us to stay? Like, because we had to stay an extra day because I was at risk for an infection. And he was just like, get us out, get us out. But I think too, like I was so scared of a C-section because of those
Mhm.
comments, and all of my friends up until that point that had had babies like 2, 3, 4 months before me were having C-sections, and so in my mind I
Yeah.
was associating that with like emergency. It's going to be horrible if I have one, Um, so that was an anxious. I did not end up having a C-section, but that was an anxiety-producing comment for me too.
Yeah. It was a tough one. It was a tough one to kind of work through. And I'm just grateful at this point that I have Eleanor. I had her safely. Everybody was healthy, and truly, that's the outcome.
Yeah,
I
that's
just should have helped,
yeah.
hope for the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm finding myself like trying to paint this positive picture with my sister as well. Because there are specific things that you learn when you're researching all this and you start to have like, I don't want this and I don't want that and I don't want this, but ultimately you want what's
Hmm.
safest for you and your baby. And if that ends up being, whatever way it turns out, at the end of the day, that should be the main goal. And I think that's
Hmm.
another way to refocus your perspective, because you can get caught up in all of those. I don't. And, having the one thing that you don't can cause you to shut down or be in a negative mind space when you do end up having your baby.
Hmm. Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think that's fantastic advice. You know, I I'm still trying to not let these comments affect me for like me and my husband are trying for number two. And, in my head, I keep saying, I want to try to have a vaginal birth, like after C-section. And I know there's a ton of risks, and I just don't want to be let down and feel the same emotions I felt having to get a C-section. And so I keep contemplating. I mean, obviously a ways to go, but it pops in my head every once in a while. Like, do I just schedule a C-section, or do I try to go through labor again?
Mm-hmm.
And I think based on what you said, maybe I should frame it differently, like
Whatever's
how,
going to be
mhm,
safest for your baby. And,
yeah.
but I think too, you can add in your wants, right? If you want to
Hmm.
try a VBAC, try a VBAC, you know? I mean, I know people that have done VBACs and they've been successful. Um, but then ultimately that decision, is you can make the best decision for you when it
Hmm.
comes to birth. And if it does go to C-section, then you have it scheduled and you have someone to watch
Yeah,
Eleanor and you don't have to worry about when you're going into the
exactly.
hospital.
That's what
So,
I've heard. I've heard like C-section number 2 is fantastic because you just schedule it. You get a good night's sleep. You eat a big meal. Like you just go in when you need to. It's like boom, bam, boom, baby. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and everyone's like healing process was better round 2. And so in my head, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have all these negatives attached to it still because it seems like it could
Could be a
not be as good.
benefit. I mean, there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to everything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I'm just
hard.
trying to make that decision without taking into consideration like, preconceived notions, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like, I just want to make the decision.
Another just wait comment that I would get is just wait until you get no sleep. If you're tired now, you're going to be tired until the baby, like when the baby's born. When it's a newborn, you're going to be like up every hour. And yes, you are up a lot with a newborn. You are feeding them, changing their diaper, but then they just go right back to sleep. Um, and I took advantage of that where Axel would essentially take a long nap in the morning and we would take a nap with him. So
Hmm.
I would sleep in until like 10 or 11 with that extra nap. And that would be how I caught up on sleep um, from the night before. But I mean, I feel like pregnancy tired was way worse than newborn tired.
Yeah. Pregnancy tire was insane.
Yeah. Like I was
I,
up for 3 to 4 hours every night, like just wide awake, ready to go.
hmm Listen, I love my sleep. Anybody who knows me, I love to sleep. If you're making me choose between sleep and doing something, sometimes that's a hard decision
Like
for me.
Megan is sleeping. Megan.
Yes, this is my time. And I've always been this way. Like, I've always just been, I love to sleep. So when they talk about like getting no sleep, I was really nervous to have kids because it was going to completely revamp my own schedule, which it does. It totally does. When they're a newborn, I would say for the first, 2, 3 months, they are just primarily sleeping. I think the biggest struggle was they're up and they have to be up every 3-ish hours to eat. And so it was during that period where I didn't feel like I was getting more than like an hour and a half to 2 hours, maybe at the most, of like actual sleep. Um, because between breastfeeding and then I was combo feeding. So I would breastfeed and then I would have to pump after because I was under supplying at first. And so I was trying to build up my supply. And so I did that honestly for the first like 3 or 4 months where I had to pump after I fed her. And I again felt like I wasn't getting enough sleep in the beginning, but truly, like I was just sleeping almost every time, at least during the first, like at least month, anytime that she was sleeping. Um, and now Eleanor's a fantastic sleeper. I would say from like 4 months on, she's like slept throughout the night. She's had some aggressions here and there, but for the most part, she's a fantastic sleeper. And so we're very lucky. Now, do I have to get up like between 6 to 8? Every day, yes. I do. And I'm not a morning person, but I love those mornings with her. Those mornings with her are some of my favorite, especially when she was a newborn. Rob has been super involved from the beginning, and he has been a stay at home dad. So he was with me 100% all through my maternity leave and even now. And so those periods of time, like in the middle of the night, especially first few months, it was just me and her. We would just cuddle, and it truly was like the best time because Eleanor does not cuddle anymore.
Yeah, it's like your
Um,
mom need time.
exactly.
There's a balance between that free time at night and when you actually like should be going to bed so you're getting enough sleep. And I think that's sometimes hard to balance. But
Hmm.
I mean, I've had like times where I would stay up until midnight when Austin was working because I would do like whatever I needed to get done. And then Axel would wake up at like 7 and I would go back and take that first nap with him
Hmm.
um, over the summer. So that worked out. But now, like I'm a full time working mom, I got up with him this morning at 6 a.m. and then went back to sleep for 45 minutes before my alarm went off. So
Hmm.
that's just, and that was because Austin was snoring and I heard him. So, uh, but yeah, I would say the only, I guess, negative sleep aspect about the whole negative just weight comment was the sleep in the hospital. I think I was so
Mm.
focused on, I'm not going to have any sleep when the baby comes home, but like the in the hospital, like not getting any sleep there, that is true. There is very limited sleep there unless you have like a amazing labor experience where you come in and you birth the baby right away.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is where I feel like my sleeping was bad. But I think you and I both have been blessed with good sleepers. I mean,
Oh,
Axel's been
yeah.
sleeping through the night since he was 2 months old. And
Hmm.
honestly, we just hit a sleep regression at 9 months of him
Hmm.
getting up in the middle of the night.
We had a 9-month regression too. It was like right
Hmm.
before we went on one of our vacations, and we were like, if she does this on vacation, we're in trouble."
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like we're right at that tipping point of it's going to change again because it's been probably 2 months.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like with the Super Bowl, and then there was his birthday party the weekend before, so it's just kind of we're figuring out the new schedule now. But
Yeah, yeah, he's all thrown off. I agree with you in terms of the hospital. The hospital, it was a whirlwind because you're up. You truly don't get to rest. I think once I got the epidural, I got some rest, but even then, like you have nurses, you have doctors coming in and prodding you, and then once baby is here, they're kind of doing that to you and baby.
hmm
And
every
so,
hour?
yeah, so you're truly not getting much sleep. Um, did you guys have a nursery at your hospital?
No. Well,
No, so
I take that back. I do not know. That wasn't ever an
mhm.
option that was like, hey, do you want to send the baby to the nursery?
Yeah, they gave us that option. And at first, me and Rob were like, nah. But I was holding her, and it was like right after I'd given birth. And honestly, I would probably say I was up for more than 24 hours at that time. Like I had gotten maybe a little sleep here and there, but like truly, I was like almost up for that whole period. And I was holding her, and I just could not keep my eyes open. And I
Hmm.
was like scaring myself. So then I called the nurse, and I was like, can we put her in the nursery? So she went for the rest of the night, um,
Hmm.
which was
That's
really
nice.
nice.
That's nice that that was
Yeah,
an option.
it was super nice, but it sucked because like I don't know if it was the anxiety of her not being there, but I struggled to sleep.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
I struggled to fall asleep. It was really tough. I had, by the time we had gotten home, I had barely slept, and I would just say those first few weeks, one because I was recovering from a C-section. It was just really, really tough in terms of sleep, but it got better. It
Yeah.
got better.
Yeah. I remember similar to like I had just had him. I had been up for like 24 hours. I wanted something to eat, and we had to do skin to skin to keep his like temperature up. And so I don't know where this great idea popped into my head, but I decided that I was going to hold the baby skin to skin. and I was going to sleep, and Austin was going to watch me to make sure that the baby was
Oh
okay.
my gosh.
And then we switched, like we flipped, and Austin held the baby and slept sitting up, and I watched the baby. I don't know why we did that. I don't why we wouldn't just stay awake with the baby, but yeah, that's what we did, and it was exhausting. And I think because we were in the hospital so long, I was able to catch up on a little bit of sleep before we went home. But it was just like a lot at first. Like I was like, what did I do? Is this how it's gonna be at
Yeah.
home? Oh my word.
Well, I don't suggest anybody to do this, but we didn't know what we were doing. So we brought the baby home, and Rob and I felt like one of us constantly had to be up with the baby. We changed it so many times, but he was doing a schedule where he was up with her, and he would usually stay up really late because I always did the night shift. So I would do the night shift into the morning, and then he would take over again. And so I think we were just so anxious because when we were in the hospital, she was in her little like bassinet thing next to my hospital bed, and she started coughing up gunk.
Oh gosh.
And Rob was sleeping, and she was right next to me, and I couldn't move because I was like still hooked on. They had my epidural was wearing off. I couldn't move. I still had the catheter. My legs were still being, I don't know what that thing is called, where they put the pressure on your legs so it keeps the blood moving. So all of that, I was still hooked up. I couldn't move. And I was just like, Rob, the baby. So then he goes and he like picks her up because I was so afraid she was going to choke. So then we were so nervous bringing her home that if we were like
Yeah.
sleeping and that was going to happen, so we were just up with her. But I'd do that again with the second baby. I remember the pediatrician saying, "You don't got to do that. Why are you doing that?" She was like,
Oh,
uh,
yeah, no, Axel was a loud sleeper. So like I had him right next to me, and I feel like in the middle of the night he'd be like like making
yeah.
all these noises, and I'm like, we'd turn on the light, he
Newborns are
wasn't even awake. I'm like,
Yes,
oh,
newborns are so noisy. That's something they never talk about.
yes, I was not prepared for that.
I wasn't either. I was not either. Um, Similar to the sleep, I feel like something that gets talked, which I guess this isn't like a negative just wait per se, but people always are just like, oh, you're fine. Sleep when the baby sleeps, which 100% you can do. And I guess do it if you need to. But I think it does a disservice to a lot of parents who physically can, because a lot of times most people are still running a household. You got to take care of the baby. Some people have additional children, so they can't just like sleep at that time. Or, there are so many other circumstances that doesn't make that possible. And it truly is, I think, something that from what I've seen, infuriates a lot of women when they get
Yes,
told that.
yes. And those first couple months, I mean, except for the first nap, maybe. I don't want to sleep when he sleeps. I want to
Mm-hmm.
clean my house. Because when he's awake, I'm feeding him, I'm pumping, I'm cleaning, I'm washing bottles. There's so many bottles and pump parts to wash. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not on my priority list at that point. But when I did get to the point where I needed sleep, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just a balance of what works best. But that was always
Yeah.
like, that was being told to me like when I was first postpartum, oh, just take a nap when he naps, and my like organization anxiety is like, no, I need to clean the house. I need to
Mm-hmm.
do that to feel better. I would feel more better
Yeah.
doing that than sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
um but I think another one too is um just wait until you no longer have a personal life. And this
Right.
one came up to me because it was like, get in all the dates that you have, do what you want personally, before you have the baby, because your world's going to change. And I would say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
your world does change, but you can still have a personal life, once baby is born. I don't know if you feel differently about that.
Rob and I aren't in the part of our lives we're more focusing on each other in our family. So the things that we do now, we do them family oriented.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Eleanor has affected that a lot because she does have huge stranger danger. We've finally gotten to a point maybe a few months ago where like grandparents were okay. We actually have a date night scheduled for next weekend. The first date night since she was like little. And so we're really excited to like actually go out on a date, which I think is really, really important to have that time with your partner. We're just kind of reframing our life in a way where it's like family. And we kind of already shifted that way. And
Hmm.
so it's not a huge change for us, but we are older, older parents, I would say. I mean, we're
You're
older than
not that
you.
old.
I know.
I'm
We're
like,
not
Senior, is
old
she calling
parents.
herself old? Okay.
Well, I'm in my 30s. I had my first child in my 30s, so I'm not, I think my mindset is much different than maybe if I were to have kids in my
Early
early mid
20s.
20s.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Austin and I have been together 11 years. Like I said, we've been together a long time. We were married a long time. We struggled with infertility for a while. So when the baby came, we were ready for it. Like I wasn't worried about it adjusting my
Same.
personal life.
Hmm.
And similar to what you were saying, I have already shifted towards family. Most of who I did hang out with were my family. I have a large family, few like multiple sisters, brothers, and cousins. So that was primarily my focus. And bringing the baby in, he just adapted into what we were doing.
Hmm.
One of the main things, like, I think about when people say, like, your personal life's going to change, like, you can't just pick up and go to dinner at 9 o'clock at night. You
Yeah.
can with a newborn if you really wanted to, but after that, uh,
Hmm.
probably not. Or like going to a movie is really hard, and probably going on vacation is a little different, but I had already gone on so many vacations with Austin. We've already gone to so many movies that we would do that when we were bored. So
Hmm.
this was more so like an adjustment into what our life looked like next.
Yeah.
And I incorporated Axel in everything that we did. We did leave him when he was young, and we would have my mom watch him.
Hmm.
And that just kind of worked out for us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the perspective is more you're changing like the amount of time. Like for example, when we go to my parents' house, they live about an hour away. So if we were to go there for dinner, we're generally leaving at Eleanor's bedtime, which is around 8 o'clock. Where back in the day, we would hang out, we would play board games, or, we would hang out later into the night, and we generally just can't do that right
Yeah.
now. Who knows what that's going to look like down the road, but right now that doesn't work for our family structure. And sure, we're maybe missing out on some stuff here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like last night for the Super Bowl, I think it was like 8 o'clock, and then the halftime show had come on, and probably by 8:30 we had left, and Axel's bedtime is 7, so he was already
Hmm.
up super late. But when I know he has to be up late, I just adjust his nap.
Hmm.
We take a longer nap, or we take a second nap.
Yeah.
And that is how I made it work for us.
I am at this period in my life where I only want to spend time with Eleanor. And I do have this mom guilt, especially being a working mom, where I don't get all that time with her during the week. And so when things come up socially, a lot of times it feels good. I love to go, but I can't do it almost every weekend. I can't even do it like every other weekend because I just feel so guilty. I'm not going to feel bad about that.
No, no. I mean, whatever, is best for you. And I would say that Megan and I are a little different in that aspect. Like I do have the desire to hang out with Axel, like I want that time. I did have an extended period of time where it was Axel and I one on one when
Hmm.
Austin was working, and he was working, 12, 14-hour days. So I did have a little bit more time than Megan had with Eleanor. And so I do take advantage of some of the personal social things that do come up. Do I feel bad about it a lot? Yes. Do I want to always go? Yes and no. I feel like
Hmm.
it's different every day.
Yeah.
And depends. Now that I've adjusted into a full-time working mom, I feel myself more reserved and wanting to be home with Axel and Austin on the weekends, especially during the winter months, because that's when
Mm-hmm.
Austin is a full-time stay-at-home dad, and I just want to spend that time with him. So,
Mm-hmm. It's hard, honestly, being a working parent, which I think we should get into in another episode.
mhm.
But I truly cherish the time I have with my daughter, and I'm so lucky because my I work from home and my husband is a stay-at-home dad, so it's not like we're not engaging throughout the day, and I just don't get to see her. But the few hours I get with her in the evening, like I would have a really hard time giving that up. Considering, I didn't truly get to hang out with her for the whole day. And then the weekends are like, my husband is there and always willing to help or take over. And a lot of times we're doing stuff as a family, but like for the most part, I am engaging with Eleanor the whole weekend. And it's very difficult for me to kind of give that up for my own personal things, which I do need to do sometimes. And I do kind of like get myself into a situation where I am like completely burnt out.
Mhm.
And I think I need to be better at recognizing that. And I've been trying to get better at recognizing that. Overall, I would say, in terms of like no longer having a personal life, your personal life is just your family life, truly,
Yeah,
at the
it
end of the
just
day.
it just shifts. And
Mm.
I think these
Yeah.
are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these comments that we've received. We've received multiple different types, um, different areas. I mean, we still receive them now. Uh, we wanted to kind of turn this and think about what are the positives of each of these just waits or different positive just waits. Being pregnant, giving birth, and nurturing a new baby is all beautiful, wonderful experience, and those are little moments to savor and remember. And I think feeling the baby kick for the first time, so I guess you could say just wait until you feel the baby kick for the first time. That is such a cool experience and a positive, amazing experience in one. That's just I miss my little baby kicks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Some of the other things in terms of like positive just wait, I would say just wait until your first ultrasound or hearing the baby's heartbeat for the first time. I was so blown away at the first ultrasound. One, because it was what, 11? I think I was almost 12 weeks. It was 11, 12 weeks. And you can see just the outline of a little baby. And I was just floored, to be honest. And even at that time, you hear the heartbeat and it's just so real and such a wonderful experience.
It is.
Ugh,
And I was able, because I did IVF, I was able to see the baby, I think it was 6,
oh
7,
yeah.
8, 10.
I was so
It was like,
jealous.
yeah, Megan was jealous of my ultrasound.
I was.
Um, but you could see the progression just in 1, 2 weeks on the ultrasound, and it was insane. Because by the time
Mhm.
I had graduated from IVF, that's the first time that Megan is seeing her baby, I guess normal OB process. And it was so crazy how much the baby had grown just in those like 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, just wait until you get to see your baby for the first time. That
Ugh.
was such a cool experience. I mean, I was a
Mhm.
little in shock, but it was like, that's my baby. I made that baby.
Yeah, it's so crazy because you sit there for 9 months and you're like, I wonder what my baby's gonna look like. And then you see them and you're like, "Ugh." Like I just had no words. And then, it's so funny, everyone around me was like, doesn't she look like you expected her to look like? And I was like, honestly, I had no expectations. I had no expectations, So then when I saw her, I was like, oh my goodness. um, but I remember because I had the C-section, so I had the curtain like right in front of me. And so they ended up taking her out and like lifting her over the curtain, and she started crying, and I could like kind of see her for the first time. And I remember feeling so emotional, and like immediately after they brought her over to me and I gave her a little kiss, but I just started like tearing up. I
Oh,
automatically was having such like an emotional response. Um but yeah, I that moment was like everything to me.
where I had a very different emotional response. I felt like I was in shock. Like was I again didn't really have expectations, but the little expectations I set for what my baby looked like was not what my baby looked like. I was expecting like dark hair, because Austin has dark hair. I felt that that would be the
Mhm.
dominant um, trait. My baby
Yeah.
was blonde with blue eyes.
Yes.
It's just a very different, but also I was in shock because I felt like this baby isn't inside of me anymore. And I
Mhm.
had a very hard time like adjusting to the fact that my baby wasn't inside of me. And so I was very excited. Like I made him, I loved him with all my heart, but I was still very much in shock the first month of,
Mhm.
of postpartum.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's honestly natural. I think that happens to a lot of people.
Mhm.
Another just wait is just wait until you watch your partner become a parent. It's honestly been one of my favorite things is seeing Rob become a dad. It's Rob, I just know he is capable of so much love and he shows me that, but to like see him show
Someone else
my
that?
daughter who
Yeah.
I love, is just it's beautiful.
Yes, yes. I would say I never thought I could love Austin anymore, and seeing him be a dad and like, make the little baby noises to the baby and like do
Yeah.
things like show emotions because Austin doesn't show emotions, um is just like, oh, yeah, everyone else gets to see
Hmm.
the Austin that I get to see.
Oh yeah, I know. It's my favorite thing is like when Rob loves something deeply, he creates a lot of names, like he's a nicknamer. And so the more nicknames you have, the more he loves you. Like you can just know the more he loves you. And, I think Eleanor at this time has bypassed me
Oh my
in terms of
word.
nicknames.
Oh
But
my.
he's so fun to watch. I mean, he's constantly just like making up rhymes. He's constantly singing. He had that diaper change song because she would always cry when we changed her diaper. And he was like, he created this little, we call it tickle time, and he made a little song for it. And so it completely turned around diaper changes. So just kind of like watching him do that, it just definitely made me love him more.
Yeah, yeah, we implemented the tickle time song too.
Yeah.
It helps when the baby cries as a newborn for the diaper, do the tickle time
Mm-hmm.
song.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep. I'll sing it one time so everybody can try it at home.
we need to get that on video.
Yes.
Just wait until you see your baby smile for the first time. I think that first smile, like I have so many videos and pictures of the first smile, and it's
Yes.
like half a smile. I mean, immediately, like the second they half smile, you're like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
compared to the smiles that they have now.
Yeah, it just gets even better. Like the smile gets even better and the giggles get even, I mean, to that point, I mean, it's just honestly that immense feeling of love. So, like, to me, that's a just wait. Like, you
Hmm.
feel, at least for me, I felt so much love for, myself, my husband, for my family, for different friends. And, throughout my life, I've had lots of love for people, for my animals. But the love I have for my daughter is just very different and unmatched. It's hard to describe into words what it feels like that love, but it's very overpowering and I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you could put it into words, but it's just there all the time.
I mean, one of the best ways to explain it is I have a completely different purpose in my
Mhm.
life now. Like my
Mhm.
purpose is mother. Mother first,
Yes.
parent. I mean, wife, mother, but like I don't care what you say, what you think. I don't care about it. This is my purpose. I love this person. And so I think that can be another just way, that purpose you feel, it's insane. It's just life changing.
Yeah, I think felt like I was at a point in my life where I was like missing this. And we were ready. I mean, same as you, we were ready for the next child, and it truly does give you so much purpose. And then you get to kind of re-experience all of the like great joys of life, going through holidays for the first time with the baby was just so much fun. You get to like re-experience the magic of being a child through the eyes of your
Hmm.
kid.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
that was by far my favorite part. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what made the holidays fun again. Like
Yeah.
before the child, I was over the holidays. Like I didn't want to put up my tree. Like I was just like, okay, I just want to spend time with
Same. Mm-hmm.
family. And now it's like, we need to decorate everything. We need to make it perfect for Axel. And
Yeah, we got to do all the crafts
yes,
for the kid. You got to get the handprint. You got to.
yes,
You did a lot of crafts.
yes. I was having lots of fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Um, the last one I want to say is just wait until you see the relationship and the bond the grandparents have for their grandchild. I'm so close to my family. Rob's really close to his family, and just to see them love my child the same way that I love them, and just create their own bond, which is the same but different as mine, is really beautiful.
yeah. And I feel like my family's very close, and that relationship that he has with my mom, I actually have a funny story. So yesterday at the Super Bowl party, I have a nephew who's 6 months old, and so he's just starting to sit up and kind of play around. My mom was holding him, and Axel noticed and went over and pushed him out of the way because he wanted to be with grandma. Later on that night, I was hanging out with my nephew, and Axel noticed and came, like trying to push him out of the way again. I was like, oh, we have a little bit of jealousy. But that relationship that my mom has with my nephews and my son is like unmatched. Even my grandma having that relationship with him, because I remember my relationship with my grandparents, and it was just my favorite of all time. Like it's fun. It's fun to go to your grandparents. And
Oh yeah.
so it's like they're raising their child again, but they get to do all the
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
things.
Exactly. The no
Yeah.
consequences, all the fun stuff. Yeah, that's so cute about Axel getting a little jealous. You're like, that's my grandma.
Yeah. I was like, it's also his grandma too.
um, so those are, I mean, I think that is just honestly the tip of the iceberg in terms of like the positive just waits. There's so much to be grateful for, and there's so much that you go through as a new parent that you're like, this outweighs any negative.
Truly, it does.
But it really does. Um, but we would love to hear, the negative just wait comments you've received. Why weren't they helpful? How did they make you feel? Did it affect your birth? Did it affect how you went into labor? Did the decisions you made? Does it affect how you parent? On the flip side, what are some of your positive just waits? What are the moments you wish you could experience again for the first time? We'd love to hear those. Email us at momerapodcast@gmail.com. And we'll definitely read any that we get in a future episode. We love to hear everybody's experiences, so all are welcome.
Yeah. And our major goal of this podcast is to break the cycle of negativity surrounding pregnancy, being a mom. We want to spin it to a positive focus and build a community where we are supporting and uplifting one another. We want to be the best for ourselves and for our little ones, and to help support other people going through this, because sometimes people don't have a best friend like I had Megan when I was going through it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's our focus.
Yeah, yeah. It is our focus. And I would say we're committed to not saying negative just wait comments to other moms or soon to be moms, and really only seek to inform in a more positive way. Because your world truly is going to flip upside down and change. And I think as mothers experiencing this, it's good to talk about it with others and inform people that may not be going through it for the first time. But truly, we want to come from a place of being helpful versus creating unnecessary anxiety.
Yeah. And to close our episode, what mom era are we in this week? I would say that I'm in I thought it was teething, but mostly sick baby era this week. Um,
Oh, poor Axel.
and Axel had a fever. We brought it down. Just came up one night unexpected at dinner. Austin said he was kind of not feeling like himself, and later on that night he had a high fever, so we brought him home. We got a hold of the fever. The next day it came back, and by Saturday night it was gone. It had been gone, so but no other symptoms. And he was literally just sitting at the restaurant, laying his head on me, and like wouldn't move. Like just I was soaking in all the snuggles, but I'm like, he feels absolutely
Yeah.
horrible right now because this is not Axel at all. Like he wants to know what food he can
Yeah.
eat, who's gonna hold him, what's going on. So it was a mom era first for me, being the sick baby moments.
Eleanor has not been sick yet. I mean, she's been like teething, not feeling well in that respect, but she hasn't had a fever. We haven't had like a cold or anything. So I'm like, that's an era I don't want to experience. For me, I'm in my chasing mom era. Eleanor is on the go. Um, the best and only toy she wants to focus on is anything that can be climbed. So a favorite is the stairs.
And you have so many
Honestly, we'll be
stairs.
like, we have so many stairs. I mean, we have a tri-level, so we're always in the lower level. That's like where we spend most of our time. Our living area and where all of her toys are. So she'll be like playing, and then she sees the stairs and she goes for it. And she's crawling as fast as she can up the stairs. Then she gets to the stairs and she can say up, and she goes up, up, every single stair she goes up. She's trying to say upstairs, but the second word is just like still. And then we get up, and then she wants to go up the other one. So I'm getting my workout in.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
of course you
definitely in
have
my
to be
chasing
behind
era.
her because you can't just let her go up the stairs by
Yes.
herself.
She's really good at it. So we usually can just like hover our hand under her butt, but I would never let her go up on her own. And we generally let her do it. Like we'll let her wear herself out. I mean, she's building muscle. We're at a point where like she can, pull herself up and stand, and she can let go, and but not quite walking, but I think we're close. So we're just letting her get that practice in, but definitely following and chasing her around. I feel like a helicopter
Yeah.
mom.
Axel has crawled to the stairs and sits at the bottom of the stairs and cries. He wants to go up, but he hasn't figured that out yet.
Oh, he'll get there. And then it'll be lots of fun. Lots of stairs for you too.
Yeah, because I have like the same setup as you. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening to our first episode of Mom Era. This episode was called Just Wait. Do you want to add anything,
And we're
Alyssa?
so excited to continue sharing our experiences and building a community to support other people going through the motherhood journey. So we will see you next week.